Your heart races. Your chest tightens as if you are holding your breath without meaning to. Your thoughts jump ahead, rehearsing the worst scenes before the present moment has finished. If that sounds like you, keep listening. Most people believe that overactive thoughts are a flaw in willpower or a sign that something is wrong with them. That idea is incomplete. Overactive thoughts are data, not destiny. They are an alarm system wired by past experience and amplified by habit, and you can learn to read that signal differently. Backed by basic neuroscience and decades of clinical practice with people who felt trapped by their own minds, I will show you a method that is simple to learn, reliable to practice, and effective at calming the automatic fire hose of thinking. Today, you will not get hacks that fade after an hour. You will get a three-part approach that addresses body state, attention training, and mental rescripting so that your nervous system stops reflexively feeding frantic thought loops. First, we will map what is happening inside your nervous system in plain language so you can stop mistaking alarm for truth. Then, we will practice sensory-grounded techniques to change your physiology in minutes. Finally, you will learn cognitive steps that weaken catastrophic predictions and build new pathways through repetition. Will you allow your body to be an ally instead of an enemy? Stay with me, and I will guide you through each step with examples you can do right now and practices you can fold into your day so calm becomes more habitual than panic. To understand overactive thoughts, we need a short biology primer without jargon. Think of your brain as having three practical layers working together. The oldest layer is like a smoke detector, constantly scanning for signs of danger and ready to scream even at steam from a shower. That detector lives in a region the brain uses to pick up signals quickly. It does not know nuance. Above it sits a system that evaluates context and probabilities, and above that sits your reflective mind that plans and narrates. When the detector misfires, the middle and top layers suddenly have to work harder to prove there is no fire. That extra work often looks like intense thinking. Vision blurs into the scenario building. You hear the inner voice narrating calamity, and your body responds with tightening, shallow breathing, and a churn in the gut. These physical sensations send more fuel to the alarm, like smoke making the detector louder. The key insight is simple. Overactive thoughts are usually driven by a body state. Change the body state and the mind quiets. The vagus nerve and parasympathetic pathways are the biological levers for calming. Small shifts in breath, posture, and attention change heart rate variability and signal safety to the brain. This is not abstract. There are consistent patterns we can measure and reliable practices that shift them. Before we dive into methods, meet Alex, the protagonist whose story grounds this whole video. Alex is 31, works in a creative role, and has spent years feeling like their mind is in a constant news ticker of threats. As a child, Alex learned to anticipate the worst to avoid being caught off guard. As a teenager, Alex studied hard to keep people pleased and to avoid criticism, believing that vigilance equaled safety. In early adulthood, Alex experienced a relationship breakup that felt like a collapse of identity and comfort. That loss left a kind of low-level alarm that became louder with stress and late nights. Alex tried advice that sounded reasonable on paper but failed in practice. Positive self-talk felt thin, and forced relaxation felt fake. What eventually helped was a combination of somatic practice, targeted attention training, and a reframe of inner rules. Today, Alex keeps a short toolbox that stops spinning thought loops in their tracks and has rebuilt a daily rhythm that supports a quieter mind. That backstory matters because it mirrors a common pathway. Childhood cues teach a detector to be hypersensitive. Losses and chronic stress reinforce the pattern. And the good news is that these learned settings are reversible with repeated practice. In Alex, we will see both the struggle and the practical path forward. Now, let us name some of the people who show up around Alex, because real life is social and relationships shape nervous systems. Dr. Maya is the clinician who explains the biology and teaches the practices. Lucas is a work colleague who notices when Alex shuts down and offers a walk. Sarah is an old friend who models grounded presence in conversation. Amir is a meditation teacher who offers a different kind of attention exercise. Priya is Alex's sister who reminds them to sleep and to avoid too much caffeine. Daniel is an accountability partner who texts for brief check-ins. Hannah is a neighbor who invites Alex to a community art night that becomes exposure practice. Coach Ben is a breathwork coach who fine-tunes posture and breath timing. Each of these people appears across scenes in concrete actions. Dr. Maya demonstrates vagus calming. Lucas offers company during a panic. Sarah models naming sensations. Amir guides a 3-minute attention practice. Priya sends a grocery run to reduce activation. Daniel schedules short practice reminders. Hannah invites gentle social exposure. And Coach Ben records a breathing cue. These names will help you map practices to people you might know in your life. We begin the live portion with a brief guided physiological shift you can do now. Sit or stand with your feet on the ground and feel the weight through your feet. Place a hand on your lower belly and notice the subtle rise and fall of breath. Inhale slowly through your nose for a count of 4, pause for a count of 2, exhale through your mouth for a count of 6. Repeat this cycle 3 times. As you do, notice temperature in your palms and the slackening behind your jaw, the softening of the shoulders, the lowering depth in the abdomen, the slowing pattern of thought from images to words. These sensory details are important because attention tracks physical detail. This is not about forcing calm. It is about sending safety cues to your nervous system so the mental noise reduces. Now, a short technical explanation of one technique in measured terms. The mechanism of the physiological sigh involves 2 quick inhales followed by a long exhale, which increases alveolar ventilation and stimulates vagal afferent signaling to the brainstem. Repeated practice can lower sympathetic tone within minutes and change interoceptive prediction signals for future triggers. That concise process description frames why a breath pattern matters beyond a placebo belief. We will now move into scenes and demonstrate how to apply this in real life and model dialogue. Scene 1 is a therapy session with Dr. Maya. The scene contains sensory detail, the soft hum of the heater, the faint citrus in the room, the textured upholstery under Alex's hand, the low-level street sound through the window, the clean paper of the intake forms. The dialogue here is a central scene and therefore extended with multiple exchanges to show the process of naming and shifting thoughts. Alex says, "I can't stop thinking about failing the project tomorrow." Dr. Maya answers, "Tell me what the first image is when you say failing." Alex says, "My manager telling me the decision was to go with someone else, and my chest goes tight." Dr. Maya asks, "Where exactly do you feel that tightness?" Alex says, "Right here, under my sternum, like a band." Dr. Maya says, "Can you describe its temperature and size?" Alex says, "It feels hot and dense, like a pebble." Dr. Maya says, "Good, hold that pebble image and breathe toward it. I want you to try the slow exhale and notice if it shifts." Alex says, "After a few breaths, it thins a bit and the image blurs." Dr. Maya says, "That is your nervous system doing useful work when given a signal." Now what is one thought that the pebble tells you? Alex says, "That I will embarrass myself." Dr. Maya says, "Okay, we will test that thought as if it were a hypothesis. What evidence do you have for it?" Alex says, "I messed up once last year on a similar submission." Dr. Maya says, "And what evidence do you have against it?" Alex says, "I got positive feedback on other projects and my manager has praised my prep." This back and forth models cognitive testing and somatic grounding together. We see Alex speak, feel, describe, breathe, and reevaluate. The sensory adjectives and the direct naming of the chest band, pebble image, and the sound of the room anchor the process. After that session, Alex goes for a walk with Lucas, which is a secondary scene with conversational rhythm and sensory detail. The crunch of leaves, the cool wind on the neck, the smell of coffee from a cart, and the cadence of joint footsteps. Their conversation is shorter, but still shows social regulation with 6 exchanges. Lucas says, "You seem quieter today." Alex replies, "My head wouldn't stop rehearsing the worst outcome." Lucas says, "Do you want to talk through one part?" Alex says, "Maybe. It feels safer to walk." Lucas says, "Okay, show me how you breathe now." Alex says, "I try to lengthen the exhale and keep my shoulders down." Lucas says, "That looks better. You're grounding with movement too." Alex says, It helps to not be alone with the loop. Lucas says, "I'm here." These simple exchanges show how small social cues and movement change the internal tone. At this point, I want you to pause and participate in a small community experiment. If you are watching now and the last physical sensation you noticed was tightness, nausea, a hollow stomach, or a buzzing chest, write in the comments a single short phrase that names it. For example, write "sensation, racing heart," or "sensation, heavy chest." Not a paragraph, just the sensation. I will read comments and respond to selected ones, and sometimes make follow-up clips to show how to apply the practice to concrete presentations. Commenting helps others feel less isolated and gives me insight into what to cover next. If you already have a routine that calms you, please share it too. Community examples make the ideas practical. After the CTA, we transition into the deeper physiological work that forms the backbone of durable change. Here, we expand practical exercises with sensory anchors. Practice 1 is an orientation to the 5 senses to ground attention. List 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 taste. Do it slowly, naming each item in detail. Notice the color gradients, textures, sound frequencies, scent notes, and mouth sensations. Each named sensory detail shifts attention away from hypothetical futures to concrete present input. Practice 2 is a posture and vagal tone adjustment. Sit tall but relaxed, imagine length through the spine, soften the throat, drop the shoulders, and allow the jaw to part slightly. As you do, inhale slowly and let the breath reach the belly. The physical sensations you notice will be subtle: the coolness of incoming air at the nostrils, the expansion in the lower ribs, the gentle pressure of clothing, a slackening behind the eyes. These little signals are how the body toggles the nervous system. We must also attend to cognitive retraining. Scene 3 is a workshop with Amir and a small group where Alex practices cognitive diffusion exercises. The room smells like tea, the chairs creak, faint laughter bubbles, the light is warm, and there is a weight in the belly at the start that slowly eases. This scene is main and contains an extended dialogue demonstration of reframing with 8 to 10 exchanges. Amir says, "A thought as if it were a radio station." Alex says, "I'm hearing a station that always plays worst case." Amir says, "Name the station." Alex says, "Catastrophe FM." "Now change the dial to a weather channel and describe the current weather." Alex says, "Clouds with a light breeze, forecasts uncertain but not catastrophic." "Good. How does your body shift when you say that?" "My chest loosens just a bit and my jaw unclenches." "Can you let the radio be in the background and keep talking to someone else in the room?" "I can hear it, but it is softer now." What is one evidence-based reframe for Catastrophe FM? Maybe the thought is an old habit, not a fact. Exactly. And that language reduces urgency. This back and forth models diffusion and relabeling, while sensory details ground the practice. We also practice exposure in incremental steps. One day, Alex faces an anxiety trigger at a small work presentation. The room smell, the click of a remote, the flash of projector light, the scrape of a chair, and the hum of AC are part of the sensory field. This event becomes a graded exposure. Alex arranges a small rehearsal with Sarah and Daniel watching in the break room. The scene includes a brief 6-exchange dialogue between Alex and Sarah to show social support. Sarah says, "You got this, and I'll take notes." Alex says, "My hands shake." Sarah says, "Hold the clicker with both hands and breathe out slowly." "Okay, I will try." Sarah says, "I'll give you a thumbs up when you finish." "Thanks." Daniel smiles and says nothing else, which in itself is a calming presence. The exposure is short, sensory-rich, and repeated, making the nervous system learn that the predicted catastrophe does not arrive. Throughout the narrative, there are moments of tension that require detailed, slow description. Moment of tension 1 occurs when Alex experiences a sudden panic attack on a crowded subway. The sensations come suddenly, a hot rush across the face, the feeling of the floor tilting, breath choking in the throat, the tight band across the chest, the urge to flee. The world compresses into one point of alarm. For the next large stretch of detail, we slow down the internal process. Alex counts the air in the nose, names the sensations aloud, and uses a 5-4-3-2-1 sensory check. 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, 3 you can hear, 2 you can smell, 1 you can taste. Each named sense creates tiny informational corrections to the alarm. With attention anchored to the body and breath-pacing extended exhalations, the surge diminishes. This slowdown is not quick or neat. It is a gradual fade as the alarm learns that action is constrained and no immediate threat requires escape. The internal tempo shifts from urgent to steady. And that shift is described with tactile and auditory details to show the process. Moment of Tension 2 unfolds during a night of insomnia when Alex lies awake and the mind compounds small worries into a spiral. The room is dark, the clock glows with a tiny red digit. The pillow compresses under the cheek, the throat feels dry, the stomach churns, and the mind plays out social humiliations. In this moment, the narrative details the step-by-step routine that interrupts the spiral. Get out of bed, move to a dim-lit chair, perform a body scan naming sensations from toes to scalp, drink a slow sip of warm water, and write a brief list of tomorrow tasks to externalize them. The scene emphasizes sensory specifics: the weight of the cup, the warmth spreading through the palms, the paper soft under the pen, the smell of chamomile from a mug in the corner. These concrete details scaffold or return to bed with a calmer nervous system. Moment of Tension 3 centers on a relational fear. Alex preparing to say no to a long-standing obligation that is driving stress. The throat tightens at thought of disappointment, the tongue sticks to the roof of the mouth, the fingers fidget with a ring, the light on the phone glares, and the stomach sinks. Alex rehearses with Priya and Coach Ben playing roles. The rehearsal includes the physical sensation of speaking, the taste of mint gum, the cool air on the face at the time of delivery, and the soft thump of the heart. Alex uses an outcomeless action approach. State the boundary, notice the consequence without predicting meaning, and return to breath. The tension does not vanish instantly, but is more manageable because it is anticipated with a plan and sensory markers. We must include technical precision about one of the somatic procedures that you can practice at home to change heart rate variability in the short term. Here is a measured description of a coherence breathing protocol in clinical language and length. Coherence breathing recruits slow-paced breathing at roughly 6 breaths per minute with an emphasis on lengthening the exhale to increase baroreflex sensitivity and vagal afferent feedback. Practice for 5 to 10 minutes daily while seated with an upright spine yields measurable increases in heart rate variability and reductions in sympathetic markers, especially when paired with regular daytime exposure to natural light and avoidance of stimulants near practice sessions. This technical passage explains why regularity and timing matter. Later in the script, we explore cognitive restructuring in a detailed role-play that includes an extended multi-turn dialogue as a main scene with 8 to 10 exchanges to teach reappraisal and evidence testing. Alex sits with Dr. Maya again and tests catastrophic thought chains. Dr. Maya says, "What is the core prediction you are making?" Alex says, "People will think less of me." Dr. Maya says, "What do you mean by think less of you?" Alex says, "They will decide I am incompetent." Dr. Maya says, "When in the last month did someone explicitly say you were incompetent?" Alex says, "Never." Dr. Maya says, "And when did you receive evidence of competence?" Alex says, "In my last review, I was praised for clarity and timeliness." Dr. Maya says, "So your prediction is a possibility, not a fact. How much weight do you want to give it?" "I want to give it less weight, but my body wants to react as if it is fact." Dr. Maya says, "So we use your body signals as data that needs recalibration. Breathe, name, test, and reassign probability. I can lower the probability number in my mind and take a small action to test it." Dr. Maya says, Yes, and each test updates the neural map. This scene shows cognitive tools paired with somatic regulation. In the advanced section, we introduce visualization and exposure that are scaffolded by physiological regulation. 2 guided visualizations are given with sensory detail. The first visualization asks you to imagine a safe place. Note the color of the sky, the texture underfoot, the sound at ear level, the scent on the breeze, and a taste if applicable. Breathe into that scene for 5 minutes, noticing microsensations. The second visualization is a graduated exposure script where you imagine the feared event at 10% intensity, then 30, then 60, while maintaining breath coherence and body scanning at each level. Alternate between images and body checks to prevent dissociation and keep the nervous system learning safety. A concise technical note on structured exposure follows. The exposure protocol uses a hierarchy of triggers with controlled duration, intersession reflection, and progressive intensification to create corrective prediction error in the fear network. Repeated, safe, and supported exposures reorganize associations and reduce expected threat responses. This technical description clarifies the planning steps and expected outcomes. As a concrete advanced visualization example, imagine addressing a group. See the room, the light, the taste of water, the texture of the podium. Now imagine the worst predicted consequence and then overlay the actual most likely outcome. Repeat widely but with breath anchored. Sensory cues such as the sound of a chair, the temperature of the air, and the micro pressure at the feet are used to tether the visualization to the body. This practice builds tolerance in the nervous system. Throughout the program, Alex uses small daily rituals that accumulate neuroplastic change. Short practices repeated daily tell the brain to update its expected state. Simple routines include a morning 5-minute coherence breathing, a mid-afternoon 2-minute sensory check-in, and an evening reflection noting one moment that felt okay. Daniel helps by sending reminders, Priya by checking in about sleep, and Hannah by inviting low-stakes social activity. These social supports are crucial because nervous systems co-regulate in groups. We also include a template for how to test thoughts with evidence in the wild. Column 1, state the automatic thought. Column 2, list evidence for the thought in the last month. Column 3, list evidence against. Then pick one small behavior that would test the thought in reality. This clear procedure converts abstract worry into a testable hypothesis. Before closing, we revisit 3 more high-fidelity moments of tension, each described with slowed internal narration so you can follow the steps. One is a public speaking slip where Alex stumbles on a line, and the immediate habit is to catastrophize. The script slows to emphasize the sensation of blood in the ears, the taste of copper in the mouth, the pressure at the temples, the friction on the palms, and the fleeting dizziness. The recovery sequence is breath, naming, brief humor, and a return to task. Another tension moment is a social misunderstanding that triggers shame memories. Sensory notes include the posture of the other person, the volume of their voice, the smell of their cologne, the space between bodies, and the hardness of the chair. The script models naming the emotion, taking a breath, asking a clarifying question, and grounding before responding. The third tension moment is a sudden work deadline after sleep deprivation, where cognitive loops intensify. The narrative details the fluorescent light, the hum of the computer, the dryness of the eyes, the clipped keys under fingers, and the shallow breath pattern. Interventions include a 10-minute coherence break, a walk outside to reset the vestibular system, and a snack to normalize blood sugar. As we approach the end of the narrative, we must give you an integration plan to practice for the next week. Each day, choose 3 short anchors: morning breath, 5 minutes, midday sensory check, 2 minutes, evening reflection, 5 minutes. Use community and named supports to maintain accountability. Keep caffeine limited to early hours, prioritize 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and do movement that you enjoy to support vagal tone. These actions create the conditions where the techniques take hold. Now the epilogue that ties change to time with measurable markers. 1 month later, Alex notices subtle differences. The body still flags sometimes, but the alarms are shorter and less intrusive. Alex reports sleeping longer stretches and waking with less rumination. The chest constriction that used to last for hours now resolves in minutes when targeted breathing is used. Social situations still carry nervousness, but there is a willingness to enter them, and small successes reinforce new neural pathways. Practically, Alex has completed 20 short daily practices and kept a brief log of sensations. The log shows a decreasing trend in frequency of intense activation and an increasing number of days with manageable low-level concern. Work performance is steady and relationships show tentative repair. 3 months later, the patterns are clearer. Alex has internalized a few core habits: the morning breath routine, quick sensory grounding on demand, and a habit of testing catastrophic predictions with small experiments. Where there was once a reflex to avoid, there is now an option to approach with scaffolding. Alex has had 3 graded exposures to feared work situations with no major fallout and reports that the anticipatory anxiety is about half of what it used to be. Sleep has improved further, and Alex reports feeling more present during conversations instead of being hijacked by the future. Social interactions with Sarah and Lucas are more relaxed, and Daniel's check-ins are now celebratory rather than rescue attempts. The neural wiring has been nudged toward calm through repetition. There are still hard days, but the amplitude of panic has decreased and resilience feels buildable. 6 months later, the transformation is more durable. Alex notices that overactive thoughts still appear, but they no longer command the agenda. The nervous system has learned new default responses to stress that include breath, naming, and a brief test behavior before escalation. Alex mentors someone new at work on managing performance anxiety and uses personal stories to normalize struggle. The sense of internal safety has grown, and Alex is making choices from preference, not avoidance. There is deeper sleep, clearer focus, and a more generous relationship with self. These changes are measurable in daily practice logs, feedback from friends, and subjective reduction in weeks of intense worry. The work continues, but the trajectory is hopeful and anchored by routine. To close, here are 3 practical actions you can take in the next 24 to 72 hours to start this method. First, practice coherence breathing for 5 minutes each morning for 3 days. Second, do a 5-4-3-2-1 sensory check the next time your thoughts spiral. Third, write 1 small test behavior for a recurring catastrophic thought and try it once. If you do these 3 things, you have taken the first steps toward retraining your nervous system. If this video helped you reframe what overactive thoughts are and gave you a concrete pathway forward, subscribe to get weekly practices that combine scientific explanation and practical steps. If you tried a practice and saw a result, tell us in the comments using the sensation format so others can learn from your experience. Remember that calm is not the absence of thought. Calm is the skill of meeting thought with curiosity, a steady body, and a plan. The signal your body gives you is data, not verdict. Make friends with that signal, practice these steps, and over weeks and months, you will find the space between breath and reaction. Thank you for listening and for choosing to train your nervous system with intention and compassion.